So here's the thing. If you're tired of your New Year's resolutions failing after a couple weeks, or you just keep struggling to achieve the things you want, here are 3 mindset shifts that can help you set yourself up for success and achieve your ideal life this year, plus some helpful prompts to help you start taking action today. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Dr. Corey Wilks. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and executive coach, and I do deep dives into psychology, online business, and content creation. So let's get started. All right, so this first mindset shift is specifically around like New Year's resolutions, but it applies to a lot of other things too. Part of it is, think of it less as a resolution and more as an intention. Here's why. For most of us, a resolution has a lot of psychological baggage. We've basically become conditioned to expect when I make a resolution, I'm going to half-assedly try it out and then give up in like 2 or 3 weeks when my motivation inevitably goes away. So even the very fact of calling it a resolution, a New Year's resolution, sets us up for failure before we even begin because our mind categorizes that as something that isn't going to work. Think of how many New Year's resolutions you've maybe made over the years and didn't really stick with any of them. Psychologists call this a schema, which all a schema is like your mental model for how the world works. Well, if my schema is that a resolution is something I half-ass for a couple weeks and give up on, then when I make a new resolution, my mind is like, oh, I know how this goes. I half-ass it and then I give up. That is my schema. That is my mental model for how resolutions typically work. But we don't have this same schema when we call it something like a New Year's intention or our intention moving forward. We don't have the same psychological baggage around that term. The second mindset shift is to think of them less as goals and more as priorities, right? You probably know all the different goal setting techniques, right? Something like making SMART goals: specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, time sensitive. This is fine, but it's really easy to get bogged down in over-optimizing our approach to creating goals. And then we get so focused on creating all these different mini goals and hyper-managing and hyper-measuring everything, we lose sight of what actually matters. And we just get overwhelmed trying to stay on top of all the little goals we've created for ourselves. If instead you think about it as, well, what are my priorities for this next chapter of my life? Because then you can basically say, does this idea, does this action, does this opportunity align or support my priorities? Because once you focus on this is my priority, or these 2 to 3 things are my priorities for this next chapter of my life, this next year, this next quarter, month, week, whatever, that makes it a whole lot easier for everything else downstream of that to fall in place. So like, for example, if my priority is writing a book, instead of setting all these arbitrary goals like word count, how long I spend writing each day, or researching things for the book, if instead I said my priority every single day is to make progress on the book that I'm writing, well, that naturally lends to writing a certain amount of words, writing for a certain amount of time, doing activities that support the book, which may include research. But now I'm only really staying on top of one thing, my priority of writing a book, instead of all of these micro goals that each one is a separate task I have to manage. And the third mindset shift is to think less about outcomes and more about processes, because outcomes are outside of our control, but our processes, our inputs, are within our control. So like, for example, a lot of times you'll see people make these goals or make these New Year's resolutions, things like this around, I want to make X amount of money. I want to get X number of subscribers. I want to lose X amount of weight. Well, none of those things are actually within your control because you don't control if people buy your stuff. You don't control if people choose to subscribe or follow you. You don't even control actually if you lose weight, right? Because like you could have hormone issues, you could have a lot of other restrictions with your own body. But what do you control? You control the processes. You can focus on sending X number of outreach messages to people every day to try to get those sales. You can focus on publishing a certain number of pieces of content every day, every week to maybe build your following. You even control how you eat and how you exercise. That maybe the downstream outcome may be to lose weight, but that isn't what you're focusing on because that is outside your control. If you solely focus on the few things within your control, the processes, your thoughts, your actions, that sets you up for success much more effectively than wasting all of your time, energy, and attention on the things outside of your control. So those are 3 mindset shifts. And then I want to leave you with a couple prompts that can help you start taking action today. So whether you have a journaling habit or you want to do this once a year, once a quarter, once a month, week, whatever, try adding these to your own reflection and planning activities you're already doing. 1, what are my priorities for this next chapter of my life? And the thing with a chapter is, a chapter doesn't have to be for the entire year, right? A chapter can be for the quarter, for the month, for the week, for the day, right? There's no length requirement for what a chapter has to be. The second question is, what are the critical components I need to focus on in order to achieve my priorities? The third one is, what could get in my way or has historically gotten in my way from achieving these priorities? The fourth one is, what do I need to do to overcome these obstacles, either before they even happen or once they do happen? The fifth one is putting it all together. What is my plan moving forward, right? Because now you've identified your priority, you've identified the critical components to achieve it, you've identified what could get in your way, and you've identified how to overcome what could get in your way. This question is just putting it all together in a single sentence or paragraph. And then a bonus one is, in one word, what is the theme for this next chapter of my life? So for example, for me, last year, the theme for my life and business revolved around expansion. So I basically said yes to every opportunity that I could. This coming year, my theme is contraction. Now I'm focusing on defaulting to no so I can focus on my few priorities, so I can give more of my time, energy, and attention to fewer things. So doing less, but better. Because seeing your life as a series of chapters makes it easier to see a clear demarcation between where one ends and another begins. So we can reflect on the last chapter with deep insights and look to the next chapter with clear vision. But if you're looking for other videos around setting yourself up for success in this next chapter, I have 2 others you can check out. One includes a lot of the exercises and prompts I use around doing a powerful annual review. And this basically helps you reflect on the last chapter of your life, however long that chapter was, as far as what worked, what didn't, what did you want to achieve that something got in the way, and what lessons are you taking from that chapter into the next one. So that pairs really well with what you learned today, as far as what steps can you take to move forward. So that way you have the insights from the past and the strategies for the future. And then if you're just specifically interested in how I use these prompts in my own life and business, you can check out this other video. Let me know if you have any questions or if you want to share your own answers to these prompts in the comments below. Until next time, take it easy.